Well, we are back, and baseball is back. Everything you need to know about the San Diego Padres and a whole lot more coming up on the final quarter on CBS 8+. It gets rolling right now.
The final quarter begins right now.
Opening day, the Padres are back in action. You can clearly tell it took a toll on me. My voice is sounding wonderful after opening day, but none of it matters. I feel great. The Padres have to be feeling great after a big victory against the Atlanta Braves. Fellas, baseball is back. We have reached the new season. Your thoughts on day one?
Well, day one couldn't have gone any better outside of starting pitching. But the offense ended up being spectacular. You fall behind 3 times, and 3 times you come back, you get the victory. It was a great game to attend if you were there, and I know the 2 of you were there getting to attend, so I'll probably get more feedback from both of you guys. But the performance of the bullpen and the offense, just spectacular. And the Michael King we saw in his start, not the best start, obviously, but I think that's going to change, and looking forward to seeing him pitch better.
Yeah, with all the adversity and the drama of the offseason, to come out and get a win on opening day and maybe, quiet a lot of that and just focus on some winning baseball is a good start to the season just in itself. My overall thoughts of the game, of course, the offense really got things going. Jackson Merrill with 4 RBIs was an incredible, way to back up what was his freshman season, if you will, his rookie year, and coming into his sophomore season now. Doesn't look like he's slumping, so he looked pretty darn sharp. As far as Michael King goes, obviously not the start that he wanted. He did really start off slow last year, though, before really picking it up on his way to a 13-9 record, 2.95 ERA. Some postseason dominance along the way as well. So am I really worried about Michael King? No. It took him a while to get started last year, so maybe it's the same thing this year. If we talk in a couple months and he's at the same place, maybe to worry then. But I think he'll probably figure it out. The Padres are going to be okay. And, looking like the season will be good as long as they're able to get, that batting order at the bottom half. If they can continue to produce, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I think Mike Schilt said it after the game. Michael King is the last thing you got to worry about after opening day. He'll be just fine as this season gets rolling. I thought there were a couple great moments during this game. One, right off the jump when Jurickson Profar walked up to the plate, all the clapping. San Diego did such a classy job of just congratulating Jurickson and welcoming him back to San Diego. I thought that was a wonderful moment. And then for me, kind of the pinnacle of the game, what made opening day was that home run by Gavin Sheets in the 7th. This is a guy that tore up spring. I don't think the Padres had any idea he was going to make the roster when camp started, right? And then this dude just tore up the spring. He comes off the bench, a pinch hit, game-tying home run in the 7th inning yesterday. I thought that was the moment of the game for me. And there are plenty of negatives, that we're going to talk about here in a little bit from opening day, but that was one of the very strong positives in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely was a back-and-forth game, and, you're looking for the Padres, after Chris Sale finally goes out of the game after, 5 innings, can the Padres really start to put up some more runs? They did a pretty good job of getting him for 3, but then they needed some more, obviously, because they were trailing 4-3 at the time. First batter of the 7th inning, Gavin Sheets walks up to the plate, calm, cool, collective, knocks one over the fence, ties this thing up. That was the momentum changer.
I also love the production you got out of the 2 faces of the franchise offensively. Fernando Tatis, 3 hits and 2 runs scored. Manny Machado, 2 hits, 3 runs scored. You get that kind of production out of your 2-star players. That is spectacular. And also, let's commend Mr. Schilt. He managed the game pretty well. Didn't leave Michael King in there too long. Didn't leave Jacob in there too long. Because if that game gets away, oh boy. But, just a lot of positives to take from it.
And I thought he let him run wild. Manny and Toddy both had 2 stolen bases. You're seeing a healthy Fernando Tatis Jr., which is just fantastic. He said it all spring leading up to the season, hey, I'm healthy. Look out for what could come. Karthik, you asked him the other day, hey, what does it need for you to become an MVP? And he said, be healthy.
My health,
That's all it is, just to be healthy. So you really saw some great stuff there on opening day. Let's hear from the hero of the game, Gavin Sheets, and others about that home run.
Thinking about it a lot when I'm around on the bases. Just try to enjoy the whole moment. But yeah, in that situation, I want to come in, and obviously pinch hitting's tough there, but you want to spark the offense in some way. We played a great game, and just to be a little piece of that right there, just wanted to get the inning going, and obviously got a spark there.
Yeah, man, it was fun, man. He came out there in a tough situation there in the 7th inning, but he had a hell of an at-bat, man. He fought in there, stayed with his approach, stuck to his strengths, and finally got to a 3-2 count, got a good pitch to hit, and he definitely delivered for sure.
It was huge. It has been building up that since spring training, and really happy for him seeing that result over here in opening day.
Hey, bro, don't sleep on these Baltimore boys, bro. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. These Baltimore boys, they got it in them. But I was hyped for them, First day being a Padres uniform, homer, tie the game, opening day. There's nothing better than that.
I mean, seriously, what a moment. Your first at-bat with your new team, all you do is launch one to dead center, by the way, to tie the game.
That's how you get everybody to love you from day one.
Yeah.
That's it. Or you hit 6 homers in spring, then you hit the game-tying one. He's in the lineup again as a DH. Can't wait to see what Gavin Sheets does throughout this season for the Padres. Hopefully he can keep it going. The guy at the end of all that sound was Jackson Merrill, who you guys know very well. Guys, I was so impressed with that at-bat he had against Chris Sale. 2 on, 2 out, 2 strikes, and he just takes the slider and flips it out to center field. It was such a pro at-bat. I think so many times we forget this guy is 21 years old. You two, what a performance from him. And oh, by the way, making plays out in center field as well. We're so lucky to have this guy on our team, I think.
I think what we've seen out of Jackson Merrill is maturity beyond his years. The things he said all last year showed maturity beyond his years. He sounded like a 5 to 6, 7, 8-year veteran, yet here he was a rookie. And this can be a guy that is the face of the franchise for a long, long time. He handles the media well, he handles the pressure well, and he just looks like a guy who's very comfortable doing whatever he's doing when he's doing it.
Yeah, I remember Mike Schilt during the offseason. I think they were having Fan Fest at the time, and he had said somebody asked him about Jackson Merrill, and he's like, sometimes I don't know who the adult is in the room, me or Jackson Merrill, because that's the maturity, as John was pointing out, that this kid has, and maybe he's not much of a kid, he's very adult-like. I asked him, on the day before the first game of the season, I was just like, what would it take for you to avoid any bit of a sophomore slump? How do you, produce what you did in your first year and then carry that on and even be better this year? He looked me dead straight in the face with as serious look as you could have. He said, I'm going to come to the ballpark early every day. I'm going to put in the work every day. Nothing's going to change. I'm going to continue on my grind. And wow, 4 RBIs in your first game, delivering that big hit against Chris Sale early, a couple RBIs after that. And, that insurance run in the 7th inning that brought Manny Machado home. I mean, he's off to as great of a start. I mean, when he says something, it seems like he puts his mind to it and he shows up on the field. That dude is a baller.
And speaking of saying something and speaking of being mature beyond his years, listen to what he happened to say after the Padres fell behind. And all the Friar fans were worried, but the players, and especially Jackson, were not.
Yeah, I mean, we were down 1 at the max all day. Like, we were never down that much. So, for us, it felt like we were winning the game even when we were losing. We like to say that we apply pressure, we don't feel it, and that was the story today. We didn't feel a lick of pressure. We were all in that game the whole time, for every pitch.
We're never out of the game. That's what we're capable of as an offense, and hold that line as a defense, and man, just keep playing good baseball.
We apply pressure, we don't feel it. 21, again, I remind you, that's an unbelievable mindset for him to have and that whole clubhouse to have. I think sometimes people forget, because Mike Schilt really has this calm demeanor about him when he walks about and when he talks, but he is a fiery guy, and there are some leaked videos that I promise you will prove he is a fiery guy, and he has instilled that mindset in this team, and they have a bunch of young, mature guys at the major league level and even below. When we talked to Ethan Salas out at spring training, a guy goes, I'm a man, I treat myself like a man. They have that maturity level in that clubhouse, and I just love, we don't feel pressure, we apply it.
Yeah, and to branch off of that soundbite, as soon as I heard it, reminded me of something Rich Hill once said. He was the longtime coach of USD, and I asked him about the pressure of being a top 25 team and blah, 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 blah. And he says, John, pressure is just a made-up word. We're playing a game here. We know what we need to do. We go out, we see the ball, we hit the ball, we field it, we throw it. But pressure is a made-up word. It's all mental. It's great.
I think what impresses me about this team is mindset. It was not as happy of an ending to last season in the way that they lost to the Dodgers, and is so close to moving on in the playoffs, and the whole offseason to simmer over it. But there's so much accountability and being there for your teammate and really showing up to the ballpark and having a chip on your shoulder every single day. Obviously, we'll see how much that stretches as the season goes on. Showed up, it felt like on opening day that this team does not want to be taken for granted. I think a lot of people, and they probably feel this in the locker room, because a lot of people are doubting how good they can be because of all those pieces that they lost in the offseason, the fact they didn't really add much more. I think all of that really brings into this team, it's just like, oh, you guys are counting us out? we'll see about that. And we'll see about that as the season goes on. But I really do feel like this team has a chip on their shoulder and accountability because they don't want to let the city down. They don't want to let their team down. And they have much higher goals than what they were able to achieve last year.
And it's very fun to get fired up. One of 162, right? It is a very long season ahead of us. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. I mentioned earlier there were some negatives. There were some negatives. Let's be honest. If we're going to talk about all the good, I thought there were some signs that worried me, especially what we thought would worry us, right? The catching position. Elias Diaz did have 2 hits, but it looked like the dude had never caught Michael King in his life before. I mean, that first inning was rough. So I do worry defensively at the catcher position and then also defensively at first base. I felt like Profar's hit to start the game. 90% of the first basemen in baseball are probably making that play. There are going to be some holes in this team, but I think we knew that going in. Do the holes concern you, or do you think this offense is just good enough to get by that defensive stuff?
I think it's a wait and see for me. It's just like, Diaz is catching for King, and yeah, they probably don't have a lot of chemistry because, well, Diaz wasn't the starting catcher last year. It was Kyle Higashioka. If you look in spring, Maldonado started a lot of those spring games too. So, and like those guys didn't really get in a lot of work till the back half of the spring. So chemistry has to build between a pitcher and a catcher. That has to be there. How many times did we talk about, last year with the pitchers and just like having that familiarity with Kyle Higashioka behind the plate and how much that meant a big deal? I know Michael King talked about it a lot because they're teammates, prior to the Padres as well. So those things kind of get sorted out. Luis Ariz at first base, you mentioned that. He had a strong defensive showing to end the year last year. I know there's been a lot of criticism of, playing first base. I know that's not his natural position. Well, no. I mean, maybe he gets moved into a DH position later. Somebody else is moved into a second base position. Maybe Cronenworth comes to first. There's options that are going to have to be figured out with this team as time moves on, and the Padres are just only going to be able to figure that out by playing more games. Yeah, are there concerns? Obviously, because it's not completely smooth sailing. It's not like they won in like an absolute blowout in which the Braves didn't have a chance. I mean, the Braves looked really good for about 7 innings until the Padres blew the door open there in the 7th. So we'll see. It is a we'll see. This is game 1 out of 162 in the regular season, a long way to go, and we'll see what adjustments they make. Obviously, there's a lot of room to grow, and that's where you probably want to be anyway at game 1 out of 162.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, absolutely a wait and see and try different things, but the one thing I will say is some guy is batting 159 after 50 games and he's still starting. All right already, get him off the field.
But he's a real veteran guy, John.
But he's a real veteran guy. He's proven himself over and over again.
Doesn't sound as cool in my voice.
As a fan, I really get tired of that. They're waiting for this player to develop, or he can't find his swing. Send him to AAA to find his swing and get the next man up. These guys get tired of hearing me say that kind of thing. John, that's not how it works in the major leagues. Well, it would if I was the manager.
And that's why you're here, John.
If only we could.
Exactly. That's why I'm sitting here. But yes, I think some of those things will take care of themselves as the season progresses here.
Yeah, look, it's not a flawless team. There isn't a flawless team out there. Okay, maybe there are 29 not flawless teams out there. There might be one flawless team. And those holes will show themselves throughout the season, but I think this team has the right mindset. Again, like you guys both said, it's a patient game. Got a long, long ways to go. One thing we did know yesterday that is a fact, that was the largest opening day crowd in the history of the San Diego Padres. Over 45,000 people there to support this team in what was a tumultuous offseason, as Karthik already talked about. What a moment it was, what an atmosphere it was, and it was something Mike Schilt took to heart.
You can't say enough about it. It's just, before the game, you appreciate it. You take a step back and just pinch yourself how blessed you are and grateful you are to be here with these fans. And, I talked to Scan after the second, this is a wonderful fan base to go on this journey. We're going to be on with them all season, and the support we're going to get and are getting from our fan base means a lot to me and our club for sure.
It doesn't need to be harped on too much because we've harped on it a lot, but just a huge congratulations to the fans of the San Diego Padres, who Peter Seidler said, look, I'm going to invest in you, you invest back in us, and that relationship has been cyclical since then, and it has been just awesome to see. The crowd yesterday was amazing. Karthik, your first ever opening day period, and of course your first opening day with the Padres. I mean, that's baseball for you, right, bud?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I got a taste during the postseason. That's where I started this job, and that was a lot of fun. And, yesterday was a whole different atmosphere, just getting to talk to fans before the game and just how excited they were. And, didn't really seem down or disappointed by anything that happened this offseason. The same feverish pitch, if you will, coming into this season that this team can accomplish great things. And this is San Diego's team. At the end of the day, I know we have San Diego FC in town now, and San Diego Wave have been here for a while. There's other, collegiate teams that people really care about. But the Padres is the team of San Diego that people just love so much, and they pour their heart and soul into it. I talked to people with Padres tattoos that they got at the age of 18 yesterday. So, the people love this team, and, the team loves them back, and that's what makes this franchise organization city so great.
Two things I appreciate about the fan base here. It is one of the best in baseball if you have a winner on the field. If you do not have a winning product on the field for an extended period of time, this fan base will start to dwindle and go. But if you put a winner on the field, this fan base is like none other. And I think the thing I appreciate even more than that is that the Padre fan base has the reputation of being a smart fan base. They understand baseball. They understand that you should give a standing ovation to a visiting player who did brilliant things for your organization last year. I've always felt the St. Louis Cardinal fan base is at that level as well, and I think the Padre fan base has that reputation amongst the league, and you hear it from even Dodger players saying that is a great environment down there, and it's a smart environment at Petco Park.
Yep, well said. And a team looking to grow a fan base just like that is our new franchise here in San Diego, SDFC, who suffered their first ever loss in the franchise's history when they fell to Austin FC on the road there in the Lone Star State. The question is, how do they bounce back? Well, it is a tough matchup to bounce back against. They will face what I'm guessing is going to be their biggest rival here soon, LAFC, this weekend here at Snapdragon Stadium. Guys, SDFC still hasn't won at Snapdragon Stadium, a couple draws. So what do they need to do to get a win over LAFC, and how big of a challenge is this going to be? Because LAFC ain't no joke, fellas.
Yeah, they need to get off to a fast start. If you're a San Diego FC fan, you're probably tired of watching your team let up all these early goals in the first 20 minutes of games. You don't want to see that anymore, right? Getting down 1-0 every single time is not an easy feat to come back from. And, it's something that they probably want to stop doing as well, giving up those early goals, get off to a good start. And, as you said, Jake, they've come up with, some lackluster performances, if you will, at home, 2 ties. And, they probably really want to get this thing going, jumpstart the crowd early and get the atmosphere behind them, too. And that's something that they're going to need to do. This team has, been battling injuries, of course, over the last, couple weeks. And I'm sure that's very challenging as they plug and play. And, that obviously changes the dynamic on the field, especially when you're losing, your best player in Irving Chucky Lozano. So who
will be on the bench, by the way.
Yeah. So
Mike Ibarra said for this LAFC match.
Hopefully they're able to, get some sort of minutes out of him, or, if nothing else, he's really close to returning, and, that helps in the future. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is an LAFC team that's won 3 games. They've lost a couple, but they're a really good soccer club, and, any team between San Diego and LA is going to be a huge rivalry, and we'll see how San Diego FC comes out for this game. But, the big thing for me is don't let up in early goals.
Yeah, I think a couple of interesting side notes on this one. San Diego Football Club's CEO, Tom Penn, he was LAFC's founding president. Yeah. And LAFC had one of the best startups in MLS history. And then the head coach for LAFC is Steve Cherundolo.
Cherundolo, baby, our guy, Steve, yeah.
Yeah, he's a San Diego native, Mount Carmel High alum. He played for the La Jolla Nomads, a 6-time state champion in his youth. Has done amazing things. He's a member of or an inductee, I should say, of the National Soccer Hall of Fame. And it'll be very interesting to see him coach here, and he's in his 4th year with LA Football Club. He's got to be feeling pretty special about coming back to San Diego to coach against SDFC.
Yeah, I imagine that's a special moment. Even that Austin FC game had a lot of San Diego roots in it. Brandon Vasquez, the Chula Vista native, scored. So did Luca Della Torre. So a lot of San Diego ties last week and this week. The players for SDFC, they have a common theme when they talk about this game against LAFC and how it really relates to the Austin FC match. Listen in.
Coming back after a loss, it's a great opportunity for us to show bounce back mentality. That's been the idea all week long. That's been the mentality, coming in every single day and having the idea to come in and in front of the home crowd, and then coming back after a loss for a bounce back win.
These last days have been just trying to train and trying to make the mentality of how we're going to bounce back. If we bounce back quick, that's the mentality we want. Not take a lot of games to bounce back to a win.
All right, that's a 7:30 kickoff at Snapdragon Stadium. Hopefully SDFC can start that rivalry off nice with a win over LAFC and get that first win at Snapdragon Stadium. The Women will also be in action this weekend. The San Diego Wave will hit the road to take on the Orlando Pride, and we have all the information for that game right here for you. 9 a.m. Saturday, March 29th. Wave off to a decent start, 1-1-0. Orlando Pride undefeated to start the year. Karthik, what do you think about this matchup, my friend?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup for the San Diego Wave, but definitely looking a lot better than they did last season. Really seem to, be picking it up a lot more in the way that they play offensively, especially is what I've been really interested in. And how about Gia Corley, man? She has been playing fantastic. Scored their first goal in the opening minutes of that first game, and then in the second game, she goes and scores the one that would end up being the game winner. She was pretty much given the ball by the goalkeeper, puts it in the back of the net. She's a funny soundbite, too. If you haven't listened to her, check out a press conference by Gia Corley. But, she's been a fantastic player in addition for this team that's really helping out their offense. And we'll see what the Wave continue able to accomplish as, they try to get back to those winning roots that they had a couple of seasons ago and maybe forget more of, the tumultuous season that last year was.
Yeah, last year was a bit of a dumpster fire. I mean, last year was worse than Jake's voices today. But this matchup is a matchup of two undefeated teams as the Wave has one win and one draw. No losses. Orlando Pride, they're in first place, so it would be a huge opportunity to get a victory here against Orlando and take a jump up into the standings.
Yep, it will be a fun one for them. I believe that game's on ESPN, too. I'm not positive, but I think off the top of my head that game's on ESPN. So, hey, wake up early on a Saturday and root on the Wave. Love that. Also, stuff going on this weekend happens to do with basketball. I hear there's a big tournament in town or around town, parts like this, something known as March Madness. It's been an interesting start to March Madness for sure. No Cinderella stories this year. No surprises. NIL really rearing its ugly head into this tournament, in my personal opinion, which I went on a long rant a while ago. So I will spare you guys that rant again from hearing it. But it just,
I might pick it up for you.
It just feels like this year your top teams are taking care of business. I think personally, Florida, Duke look like the two trains that won't be run off the track. We'll see what happens with those two.
Alabama looking pretty good, too, and maybe a Tennessee or Houston you could sneak in there and see if they're able to play some really good defense down the stretch. But, hey, it's kind of what Jake was saying, man. I love the NCAA tournament. It's my favorite tournament of the year, and I think there's a reason why we've all loved it so much is because those Cinderella stories that pop up, Colorado State probably the closest one to have. But I think what made Colorado State so good is a lot of their players that are on their team that contribute a lot have been there for some years, had contributed to that team, and really knew the system. And that's where, those Cinderella stories have always come from in college basketball. And now as we get more into this NIL age and, transfer portals and everyone jumping every sort of which way, it's hard to teach systems. I know a lot of people were talking about that Arkansas-Texas Tech game, talking about John Calipari and why he didn't call a timeout late. And I'm like, what does it help? I mean, you're probably not teaching these kids a whole lot because they're, most of his guys that are starting, like John L. Davis, Jonas Adu, like those guys just jumped over to his team like recently after he became the head coach.
A 16-point lead.
The man didn't even have a roster, going into like this year after coming from Kentucky. He had to pretty much build one from scratch. It's just like the game is not as intricate anymore. Nobody wants to play a half-court offense anymore. Everyone wants to try out and get in transition and score these days because, like, I don't know. I feel like it is probably harder for these coaches. Maybe I should get some input from them on how you're able to, really get the fluidity of a team and chemistry with a team. And, that sucks because, I think a lot of mid-majors will suffer. And, those mid-major teams that are maybe in prime position to maybe make a run in the NCAA tournament next year, their best player might get poached. The transfer portal's open now, and a lot of guys are hitting the portal. I mean, just look at San Diego State, Nick Boyd and Magoon Guath, two of their very pivotal starters for the team, both in the transfer portal. So, in a day and age in which you're trying to build chemistry and you're trying to make deep runs in the tournament, it becomes harder and harder because your best players, if you're a mid-major, are hitting the portal and moving somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of what college hoops has become. Although I will say this current Sweet 16, Alabama, 25 threes made last night, which broke an NCAA tournament record that went back 35 years, back to 1990, Loyola Marymount. And as popular as the three-point shot is, I'm surprised it's been that long. Granted, the old record of 22 is a lot of threes to hit in a game, but Crimson Tide last night with 25 threes. I'm also late to the Cooper Flagg
He's a beast, man.
What's that?
He's a beast.
Oh my gosh.
The number one pick right there.
Yeah, I finally got to watch him last night, and this is a guy, he may be, once he's got several years into the NBA, he might be the best NBA player ever to come out of Duke. Duke just constantly has great teams and great players, but this might be the best NBA player ever to come out of Duke, from what I saw out of one game.
That's
very impressive.
Those are bold statements right there. There's a lot of good players that came out of Duke, John Howard.
Re-rack the tape 10 years from now, my friends.
That is a hell of a statement. I will say, I heard a great comparison about Cooper Flagg, and it was Kawhi Leonard. Because he is such a good defensive player. His defense is already ahead of his offense.
I think his KenPom efficiency, he's like the #1 rated defensive player in the country, I think, if you look at the metrics.
The guy can play defense in the NBA today without question. And then
Do they play defense in the NBA?
Yeah, great point. And then his scoring ability has no ceiling. It's like, what can this guy turn into? I mean, I heard the Kawhi comp, and I thought, that's perfect. Yeah, Cooper Flagg could be Kawhi. I really think...
Hopefully he can stay healthy.
Hopefully he can stay healthy. I really think it's Florida or Duke that takes this thing home when all is said and done. But I think back, one last thing before we wrap this up, think back to how close UCSD was to putting Michigan into overtime. And now Michigan has a chance to take on Auburn, which we're recording this before it happens. But Michigan really could beat Auburn here, possibly. And then they're going to an Elite Eight, and UCSD was 7 centimeters of a Tyler McGuy three that close to forcing overtime. You really, I mean, I know we've harped on it, but you really should give UCSD a ton of credit for how close they were.
Once again, proves my point. How important was it for them to have guys that have been in that system and really be able to get that team chemistry? That's why these teams that were, could have been potential Cinderellas had a chance to begin with.
We'll see about the Cinderellas that don't exist this year. Somebody's going to win the NCAA tournament, probably a 1 seed, let's be honest. But we will be back to walk you through the entire NCAA tournament as we roll on through March Madness. Keep it tuned in right here every week for the final quarter on CBS 8+. I promise I'll come back next week with a little bit better sounding of a voice, at least. So I'll let these two send you guys off so I no longer have to.
Maybe next week I'll lose my voice, and then I'll just be over here like...
That's when we bring up the bad takes. He's like, oh, can't talk. Good night.